welcome to Upstage Downstage, with him, Richard Platt, seated in the upper circle.
And him, Stephen Rees, typically seated in the cheap seat.
This is the Theatre Podcast, where we discuss productions we've seen,
Things we've liked,
and may not have liked,
giving our complete unprofessional
and non-biased opinions.
So grab a brew,
Take a seat,
and let's raise that curtain.
On today's episode, we'll be discussing The Ocean at the End of the Lane. We saw this production at Sheffield Lyceum on the 15th of May 2023. From the imagination of Neil Gaiman, best-selling author of Coraline, Good Omens and The Sandman, comes the National Theatre's major new stage adaptation of The Ocean at the End of the Lane. This thrilling adventure of fantasy, myth and friendship is a 5-star spectacular which blends magic with memory in a tour de force of storytelling that takes audiences on an epic journey to a childhood once forgotten and the darkness that lurks at the very edge of it. So Richard, what's it all about?
Returning to his childhood home, a man finds himself standing beside the pond of the old Sussex farmhouse where he used to play. He's transported to his 12th birthday when his remarkable friend Letty claimed it wasn't a pond but an ocean, a place where everything is possible. Plunged into a magical world, their survival depends on the ability to reckon with ancient forces that threaten to destroy everything around them.
But first, our post-show opinion! A spectacular masterpiece from start to finish.
An unforgettable piece of stagecraft that is one to treasure.
So with all that said, let's set the scene. So Richard, Ocean at the End of the Lane. Set the scene. Bloody mess of everything.
So Stephen, we walked into the auditorium.
Did we?
Yeah, we walked into the auditorium and we
Took to our seats?
yeah, we took to our seats and we took to the front row actually.
Yes.
And we were a little bit perplexed, as we may have thought. We thought, yeah,
Put your teeth in.
we were a little perplexed because when you looked up, you thought, am I going to actually see anything in this production? Because the way of the staging is, it's quite a raise on the stage in front.
Yes. And the rest
So-
of the set was all bushy, wasn't it? Like
Yes.
vines.
Yeah, there was vines, and it basically looked like you'd gone outside and raided a load of dead trees from the and twigs and twine and stuff from the forest up the road, and we just shoved it on stage because
Is that the forest up the road by the ocean at the end of the lane?
Yeah. You have to turn left before the ocean, though.
Oh, I turn right.
Well, yeah, well, if you turn right, you just never come
You're
back.
just asking for trouble.
You are just going to go wrong. So yeah, so basically, it didn't really give anything away. The production.
It was very much like a bare stage
Yeah.
production, wasn't it?
It was all black. Everything was like the staging was painted black.
It was angled so it came off down towards us.
Yeah, it was quite imposing, and the flat space was actually. Normally, the rake of the stage comes forward so you can actually see everything wherever you sit, whereas this played with that a little bit more. And luckily, I thought we might actually miss something, but actually we didn't. So
Well, they took the front row of seats out to
Yes,
accommodate
they
the
did.
extra speakers and the extra bit that covered the beautiful artistry artwork of the actual
the front of the stage in the Lyceum, yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, so at the back of the stage, it was literally black cloth. It was almost just the end of the back of the stage was almost like the end of the lane. Really, it was almost like you were looking down a road with trees, basically, and that's what you were shown. So you didn't really know what was going to happen because it was just empty, bare space. Really,
It allowed you to feel like it allowed everything to be unexpected.
yes,
Put it that
did.
way.
Yeah, it didn't set you up to think something's going to happen. It almost unnerved you a little bit.
Did you know what was going to happen or what?
No,
what was
never
it
seen
about?
it.
No, I haven't.
Never
I
read
haven't
the
got a
book,
clue
not
either.
seen it.
No. So it was very much an intriguing piece, and the first particular scene was
We're shown
Pardon?
we were shown the funeral, weren't we?
Yeah. Go on, then you talk about it.
Yeah, so the first scene we see the whole cast on stage with basically a pillar of light from above to actually show the hole in the floor of the ground where the somebody's been buried. So you're basically reenacting the final moment they say bye to somebody, but you don't really know who that is or what that is at that point.
And it wasn't the whole cast, was it? It was just they had like additional like dancers in black outfits as extra bodies and people that just moved furniture on and off.
Yeah, so we saw Trevor Fox, who plays the dad, walk through this white light, really, and just stand in front of the stage, almost like once he's been there, he sits on a bench, because the bench appears from the side of stage, and he just sits on there to watch the world go by a little bit, and he's greeted by somebody. So you still don't really know what's happening at this point in the production, do you?
No. Well, you don't.
You don't.
You don't. You have no idea. And it continues to play with you like that, because he then... Oh, there's like this dodgy bit at the very beginning where it's like wooden plank of a bench gets wheeled on in like a rope pulleys. So it's like squeak on, shifting over a little bit. And then the old lady comes out and stands by it, because the... Trevor Fox, who's the dad, sits there and talks, and then they have a cup of tea.
Yeah.
Because this is pretty much setting up the beginning of the play, but also it doubles up as the ending of the journey.
Yes.
At the very end of the play as well.
Yeah, you've seen a fast forward shot to what happens at the end, at the start, really.
Yeah, so you're not really sure as to what's going on, other than there's been a death. But then it all makes sense at the very end of the play as to whose death that is and why. Yeah. And then once that scene finishes, you're then introduced by other characters. A car comes in out of nowhere, right at the back.
Yeah.
To witness
the death of the lodger.
Yes, the death of the lodger, which was a suicide.
Yeah.
Allegedly. And then out of nowhere, this young lad comes running out past us in the audience, and he jumps straight up onto the stage and gets embroiled into the drama, and then that's where the journey of the lad is then our main protagonist.
Yeah, and that's his first view of death, really, because that's when he sees the lodger. He's only meant to be at 11 at the first time he enters stage, so he's seeing his first experience of somebody dying, but seeing somebody dying in front of him almost, and that's just where the chaos begins, maybe.
And then from there, you just follow his story, basically, whether that's with his own family, with his sister. But it goes into a bit of a surreal, weird...
It's almost Fantasyland.
It does, yeah. Whether it triggers something within him, because he then goes to this family of people who seem to be sort of on the supernatural side of things. The young girl, her mother, and then a grandmother. And the grandmothers we've already been introduced at the very beginning of the play anyway. And they sort of go out playing and then find a 50p piece and a fish.
Yes.
Yeah. And that's like really weird.
Yeah.
Because like, someone's giving money away to people to coerce them, and it turns out to be...
And then he goes to sleep.
We're giving out spoilers here.
Well, it might be. But I suppose it's in the book. It's not something that's... But I suppose...
yes.
But then he finds that he then in turn discovers that he's now finding 50p's and he's expectorating them out of it himself.
What's that?
Expectorating.
Yeah. X-Factor. Something to do with Simon Cowell.
Yes, and Louis Walsh. Osborne.
He's extracted a 50p piece from his hand.
That's his mouth. He wakes up in the morning.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
Yeah.
What comes out of his? Oh no,
that's later.
It's a tape. Wasn't
that's later.
Like a tapeworm thing.
Yeah. So we're seeing that he's actually been almost identified by another otherworldly creature to embody this person, to actually that this otherworldly creature basically wants to give him what he wants by giving him money and thinking that that's what he wants, that's what his desires are, when actually it's not the case.
Was that what it was about?
Yeah.
Oh.
That's what they said.
Was it?
Yeah.
Oh. I'm very insightful on this.
And that's where the link then came to the flea and the fact that they... We talk about the flea being a tiny little insect. Actually, the flea in this wasn't a tiny little insect.
Not when it goes into the realms of surrealism.
No.
And it goes into fantasy land and it being a complete huge beast entity in itself. But, maybe the flea is the same size, but they get shrunk.
Yeah, of course.
Honey, I Shrunk the Children.
Yeah, exactly.
At the ocean, at the end of the lane, behind the bush on the right. behind the twigs and branches.
Oh,
Oh, come on.
I'm trying to think of how we.
Well, we don't particularly need to discuss the actual play in every little scene by scene detail,
we don't.
do we?
No.
Let's leave something
Yeah,
for
we've given enough now.
the viewers.
Yeah, I mean...
We've given enough because we can't think of any more to add. Although there's lots more to add.
There's loads more to add,
more.
but...
I think if we're going to be doing it scene by scene, we're going to be here all day, and we
Yeah,
haven't
we
got
will
that
be.
long because we've got Titanic to watch.
Yes.
Now, think about it.
Set the scene.
No, we've done that. There's a lot of sets of scenes to be setting
I'm thinking.
of the scenes. You're thinking.
It's thinking.
Thinking.
Come on then. You said think about it. I said I'm thinking.
Oh, dear God. See what I've got to put up with?
Yeah.
Get out.
Okay.
So there we are. That's our discussion of the ocean at the end of the lane. Get in. So, should we talk about the writing or the directing? Because this is a tricky one in a way. I feel like, for me, there's more to talk about the whole technical side of the production
and
the direction,
Yeah.
rather than the actual writing of the dialogue.
Yes, I
Because
agree.
as you can probably tell so far, I can't remember that much about the ins and outs of the plot and the story and the dialogue because I was just blown away by everything else.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Come on.
Yeah, this is definitely a piece where if you tried to maybe read the book and then do this, they must have had so much work in their heads. Or they must have, I'll be honest, there might have been a lot that ended up on the cutting room floor for this production to actually how they directed it and performed it. Because this was very much a black stage, bare stage, empty stage performance with props or set pieces just to enhance or move the production along.
They just brought their imagination straight to the
Yeah.
stage and they allowed it to flourish.
But it must have been a collaborative piece where they must have had a lot of people involved in that process because they couldn't have rehearsed some of the things without just trialing them, see what works, play with the light, move with, you can see why it must have been quite
Well, you can see why they had a movement director because
Yes.
there was a lot of movement to direct.
Yeah, well, exactly. But also the puppetry and things like that. You've got to come up with the wonderful world before you can decide how to make the creatures move or the things that are in it move. And
the thing is, with the puppets on this one, there was the small puppets of when they were in the ocean floating around at the end, and then you had the great big beasts
and the birds and the
stuff.
Yeah.
But this was quite similar in terms of how Robert Icke's Animal Farm was done, with all the small animals and then the bigger, huge, like box of the horse and all those other little bits and pieces.
Yeah, care and attention was taken to every element, really.
Yeah, this was very much up there with the production style of Animal Farm for me, I feel.
Yeah, and also Warhorse and things like that, because I've seen Warhorse.
I've never seen that.
And this is the same sort of style of performance in where you don't really see the people, even though you know they're there. The puppets are coming to life, even though you know there's somebody holding rods or wires, or that becomes necessary because you know that they're embodying this character or performer.
And that was all part of it as well.
Yeah, it was, definitely.
There's other little bits and bobs I do need to discuss, but I think that would be if we talk about the ensemble.
Yes.
That was just perfect casting in a way to be able to have people move about, bringing things on and off stage, but to do it in a way where, whilst the main character is maybe thinking, because there's one particular scene where he's in this little house, do I stay or do I go? What's happening?
Yeah.
And the ensemble have the furnitures in their hands and they're above their head.
Yeah.
And it's like, am I putting it down yet or am I not?
Yeah.
Are we going yet?
And you almost felt like the stage was breathing.
And
it felt like it was...
And it wasn't until he decided that he was going to stay where they actually, okay, we'll put it down and then we'll move away.
It added to the indecision. It added to the performer.
Yeah. And it also made it feel as if these people were hiding or lurking in the background.
Yeah, always there.
Like shadows. In a way, like if they turned around, they froze or they disappeared. They weren't to be seen, but they were definitely there bringing stuff on and on.
And I don't know about you, but on and on. But I don't know about you, but it almost unnerves you as an audience member, because as an audience member, you sit there almost feeling like, are they going to sit behind me, or you feel like they're there all the time because of the way that they do it on stage. It's that feeling that what's going to happen next.
Well, One thing I hope will never happen is that someone opens some bloody Pringles and sweets.
Yeah, and they didn't do that this time.
No. Now, I must give a shout out to Katie Rudd, the director, for this.
Yeah.
To have an image in her head about wanting to create this masterpiece, because this is what this is. This is a masterpiece of everything.
Yeah.
You know, stagecraft, technical craft.
Yeah.
Playing with the lights and the sound and everything.
But it's also having restraint to do a performance like this and know what works and what doesn't, and being confident in that. Because as a director, it's very easy to use everything, and she's obviously reined back on certain things, even though herself she might have had wild ideas. She's been very clever in just tightening it up to make sure. Yeah, but being reserved in making it a strong, stylized piece isn't easy. And
the thing is, I don't think this was stylized. It was just fantasy.
But yeah, exactly. But what I mean is, to keep it within that one style, to keep it within that one view and look, it all felt as one. There was no jarring element that felt like, why was that there? Or what was that? None of it felt like it didn't matter or wasn't part of the production.
I think what helped was, if anything was repeated, it was repeated well.
Yeah, exactly.
It was repeated differently.
Yeah.
There was another version or a take to it.
Yeah.
And I think that helped the production grip you and entertain you and make you think, oh, now what? What next? What are you going to show me now? It was basically a stage show of just showing off your technical abilities as to what you can do on stage and get away with. Yeah. And playing with the lights and the shadows and stuff is definitely something that they can definitely do confidently or bold.
Yeah,
and captivating.
Because that is not easy. Because it's very easy to let a technician or technical or let lighting directors or lighting designers run away with things. And sometimes you've got to stick to your guns and say, no, this is how we're doing it. It doesn't matter if people are lit well or not lit well. This is how it's being done because this is the reason we're doing it. And then when you sit back and... So there were some scenes where, I suppose we're drifting technical things, but it's more directing. There's certain scenes where they weren't very well lit, but it felt like people were walking out of a space and into another, and the shadows mattered.
Yeah.
The things that were cast by the natural shadows of people, or less light in one space and more light in another, when you ran round that space, it felt bigger and it felt more cavernous than just...
When did you run around that set?
Well, there was certain bits where when you saw the movement from one space to the other on stage and running to the back, you felt like they were running through trees, or you felt like, it didn't feel like it was just all very well lit and it didn't matter. It didn't feel... You wouldn't have that in real world. If the sun's coming through the trees, every channel of light comes from a slightly different angle, all from the same position, but it all... Like in the shadows, in the dark, moonlight doesn't just well light everything, and I think that's what they picked up on really well.
I think also credit where credit's due, that they utilised everything in that stage.
Oh god, every inch.
Even like the sound effects for certain things that were on there. When we're talking about, well, I suppose this is again technical thing, but like when it was a toaster, or when it was the oven, the toast in the oven thing burning, or like the bath scene. Where someone's getting like almost drowned, or the bits. I don't particularly want to give stuff away, but there was a lot of stuff going on at every corner of the stage. Yeah. Even when it was a great big fight scene, or climbing up the things, or demons coming in and out, and everything. It was just mind-boggling, to be honest, as to how they managed to achieve such an amazing feat.
Yeah, and it's one of those productions that you still think about.
Definitely.
That's important when some people forget that leave you thinking about theatre is important to make you want to go and see it again. If a director can do that, they've done it. But
this has left me thinking and wondering and pondering more on the technical aspects than the writing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but then
the directing with all that as well.
But then I can probably see that if it's such a well-known book and then you do a production...
Well, I don't know it.
I know you don't, but what I'm thinking is, if it's such a well-known book and a lot of people have read it, to see it then on stage, if you already know the story, I feel like this would still shake the floor for somebody who saw it live compared to it being on a page, you know. And I think that may be why they went this route to do it.
I mean, if they'd have done it on a film,
Yeah.
I think you'd probably lose a lot of. You'd definitely have more stuff to do or use, but I feel that the tricks up their sleeve that they played out here work so well and aided with the whole fantasy element of that and the storytelling element that, you know, it's this is definitely a stellar production.
Well, you felt like you were in a film. You felt like you were
part of the journey.
You were part of the you felt like you were sitting in the middle of it, and I think that's where you can't recreate that on, you know, a recorded film, or, you know, you can't. It's very difficult to do that if you start using CGI, and I think this is the whole point with this. There's no CGI. There's no creating things out of a drawing on a page. This is creating things out of
physical movement.
Movement, and that is more unnerving and real and realistic. Even though you know
it's more
that it's
entertaining as well, let's face it, and creative.
But I think that's when you've played with light in the way that they did. It blurred the lines in your eyes when you're watching stuff, and you're going, yes, I know that's like not real, but it's starting to really feel real, and it's nightmarish, and in a way that makes you sit up and go, oh, am I actually watching this on stage? Because it's starting to blur the lines now, you know, and that's when, like you said, with an ensemble cast that are all on it, whatever happened. And what we'd probably say is that the ensemble cast, there are sort of key members in this that have got cast positions in the production, but they were all involved if they were wearing a black hood, or they were all doing something else when they weren't on stage. They weren't just waiting for their part to come on. There were certain members of that you could still see that they were, one minute they were say the daughter or the sister, and the next minute they were in full black doing all the other parts of the production, and I think that showed a lot.
There was strong direction from the off here on this production.
It was sharp and to the point as well.
Funny in places as well, and it was intriguing, especially when you're trying to knit everything together, because a long period of time you were just entertained and captivated by everything technical that was going on, that it doesn't occur to you until the very end where, oh yeah, that was what happened. And, you know, it's as if you yourself lost the plot because you were just entertained and just captivated by, as I said, the whole technical aspect. Now, saying all that, without saying anything else, shall we move on to the acting?
Yes.
Moving on to our next segment, as we say, we're here for the drama. Okay, so we've got a great cast here, as well as the ensemble, because I don't think we need to leave them out of the picture whatsoever, because they were all part of it. I'll start with not necessarily the main person, but the person that probably everybody knows, Charlie Brooks.
Yeah.
You know, everyone knows her as Janine Butcher from EastEnders. But she was just fantastic when she made her appearance, because I completely forgot she was in this.
Yeah, I didn't realise either. I sort of recognised the name, but I just was more excited about seeing this than really paying attention to the cast, because I think, you know, for cast, it's not always about familiarity with certain cast members. No. It's just about seeing them perform the characters, and she really performed her character. And
absolutely,
in my eyes, she threw away any pre-performances of somebody else. She just became this character, and I've never seen a production where somebody comes across as demonic and you feel that they're demonic. You know, because there's that perfection in performance, and I never, you know, it was just intense, and I think that's probably the way to describe it.
She revelled in it. She enjoyed this.
Yeah.
You know, and I think when an actor really enjoys the part that they're given, something gritty, something different, something unusual, that they will embellish it, and they'll go to town on it and just take joy from that. And I think we as an audience member pick up on that.
And I think it's easy to make something like this type of performance cheesy and camp if you do that character without understanding the placement within the production. Yeah. And I think she did.
Well, the moment you said cheesy and camp, I was thinking the Spooky Mormon Hell Dream.
Yeah, well, of course. Yeah. But it's easy to dip into that.
It is.
And not leave you feeling uncomfortable. Yeah. Whereas she made you feel uncomfortable, and it was in a good way.
Do you know what? This is the people who did Wicked Lady.
Yeah.
should take note of this.
They really should.
This is how you do something that's scary and like thriller and chilling. And
Even if they took,
tingling.
I'll be honest, even if they took a few elements from what we saw,
yes,
they'd actually make a lot of effort,
difference,
a lot of change to the how they perform something. But no, I think
her performance was definitely just incredible.
I won't forget her performance in this
Definitely
I think that's something to take away from it. You remember certain things she does. We won't give too much away, but this, the scene with the doors.
We won't say any more, but yeah, definitely
amazing.
Yeah,
totally. Just witchcraft on stage. I think that's the easiest way to describe it, and that is not easy at all.
Yeah.
This is something that's happening live in front of you, not something that's happening, with a pre-recorded projection. There's no projections in this production. There's no backdrops. There's no this, that, and the other. It's all done in front of your eyes, and it's just clever.
Yeah.
To be honest, all the other casts were great. I mean, Keir was great as well. The guy who played the lead boy, basically. He was always on stage, really, and you saw him go through every emotion in the world.
Yeah.
And pull it off and perform really well, I think.
Yeah, you followed his journey and you were just there as his sort of like a wingman or wing person.
Definitely.
Just being right there, going through everything. But I'll tell you who I did actually like, the girl.
Yes, definitely.
Millie Hikasa was definitely one of the standouts. And I thought when I was first watching this that she was given an outstanding performance, that I just loved her character, loved how she acted and how she was, and that was before even Charlie Brooks came out, and I thought that
I totally agree.
This character just she had a whether it was a natural accent, but she had like a Cornish, Somerset, Devonshire sort of down south accent, and that sort of helped with the character.
Yeah,
the mother and the grandmother, they played their parts well.
Yeah, they did.
But I don't think it was anything necessarily to shout about, simply because they were just portraying characters that were just them.
Yeah.
Their how their characters were written didn't necessarily seem to have any kind of things that made them stand out as such.
They were almost the grounding characters, weren't they? They're the ones that they were like, because of all the chaos and things that were happening, they were bringing a little bit of normality into the performance to then springboard you into so much more chaos again.
I suppose the grandmother was very stereotypical old woman that was more like could see like into the future.
Yeah.
I mean, she probably couldn't, but
yeah,
she like the Oracle.
Yeah,
she was there playing that kind of a role, and the mother was very much my mother,
the matriarch.
My mother, the Oracle, and my daughter's like this spiritualist person doing stuff, and we never really got to know the mother as such.
No, and I can see why the characters were like that to then add more power to the bigger performances.
Well, yeah, you don't necessarily focus on those characters because they're there just to fill a role and whatever. But
exactly.
Unfortunately, sometimes that doesn't make that the actors are giving, I don't mean stand-out performances, but
you don't
notice those characters as well, or as...
Yeah, they played the part really within it,
yeah,
but they didn't, you couldn't, their parts didn't require the dynamicism that the others did, in a way.
That was a spooky word for you.
It was, wasn't it? Big word.
I thought you were trying to say dialysis. And the ensemble... Let's just, we've already said about those as well, but I think without them, it would have been slightly a different production, because not only have you got to have all these sets and other props coming on and off, but how they interacted with everyone, doubled up, made the shadows, made the extra figures in the background, and held the toys up in the lights. And
I mean, I'll be honest,
the creatures.
But it wasn't just holding them in the light, it was how they presented them to the light, or they became otherworldly when they grabbed them and made them float.
In a way.
It was like, it wasn't just... I feel like they were like working on revolving doors, because I felt like they were running off stage and back on again, running off stage and back on again. They were always doing something, and if they put something down, they were picking something else up.
So for me, the ensemble felt like they were portraying dark matter in that instance where they were holding the toys up and just keeping them floating in the light. You didn't necessarily see them, but more you focused on the toys going up and about, because that's exactly what they were.
Yeah.
They were portraying this sort of in between everybody's performance and all the colours.
It was the continuation of puppetry as well as it's that sort of, it gave things life, didn't they?
But yeah, just strong performances throughout, including the likes of the dad, the boy, and the sister as well. They all played their part equally well, equally strong, and it was just a joy to watch every single actor really enjoy being a part of this production, because this was a big kick-ass production
It really was.
of huge magnitude, you know.
Yeah.
So well done to everyone involved.
Moving on to our next segment, as we say, what the tech is this?
So, technical aspects for The Ocean at the End of the Lane. There was a lot of technical stuff here, wasn't there?
There was, and then there wasn't.
Well, there was.
Well, there was, but what I'm saying is, when I
wasn't.
mean that, there was a lot of stagecraft that
there's a lot of
wasn't
stagecraft,
reliant.
but it's technical stagecraft.
There was technical stagecraft, but
then there wasn't.
But then there wasn't, as in, there was a lot of effects that were done purely by playing with the dark, which means there's less light on stage, and there was certain times when the lighting was focused to the front of the stage, so it played with your eyes, so you never really saw what was going back happening in the background, which then meant that you sort of it was almost like you're walking around in the dark and you're starting to see things that you don't actually know if you're seeing them, or it was playing with that in your eyes and stuff like that, because there were certain elements where they just happen, and they used a lot of smoke, and they used a lot of things to evoke intrigue or mystery, to hide wires, or there was a few bits where people were flown in and stuff, and they used the smoke to hide the wires cleverly, but because they lit it lower, you didn't know everything was there, so it just blurred the lines between the stagecraft and the technical side of it, really, and I think that was done really well. And they used quite a few LEDs to line round door frames and things like that, but then that detracted your eyes from other things that were happening in the darkness, and it was quite clever in that way. I
love the amount of detail they went into, and on the oven that they brought out, it wasn't just the smoke that we had for the burning of the toast, but there was a light just at the side that shone just underneath the side of a towel that was just over a rail that I don't think they ever used.
No,
but it gave so much depth, and it stopped that light going straight out. But it just enhanced.
It was attention to detail
section.
In those little bits that.
And even in the the old woman's cottage shack thing, when they had the oven Arga thing, they had the red lights under there. But whilst the little boy, whilst the boy was going to sleep, there was a fan effect. You could hear the sound of a fan just still rotating around because it was hot.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
it was
exactly.
Kicking out the heat.
Yeah,
there, and all those little details. Even when in the bathroom scene, when the father was really losing his rag with his son, the lights changed to green to show a different side of him and his feelings, and the fact that he's slightly regretful of that, but he's going down that dark side.
And I think what was really good was the lighting design. They'd obviously worked on it well, where they held back on colour use only when it was needed.
For the monster scene,
and the green scene, like the green scene, you didn't really see that again.
No,
because it was just purely poignant for that moment.
Yes.
If they'd have overused it, I think this is the key thing it's the key thing.
Oh.
This is the thing for this production. Everything had a purpose throughout. They didn't reuse certain things, like in this first half when there were certain things that were happening. They didn't reuse it again. And
they kept it sparingly, didn't they?
They kept it for that piece only, and then used a different thing again for
yeah, exactly. Case in point, when we first started watching this, we saw all the vines and the bushes or whatever you described at the beginning.
Yeah.
But as it got into it, and you got into the dark side or the strange
this was in the second half, wasn't it? When it all...
with the Charlie Brooks' character and the monster and stuff like that, or the flea. You actually saw the lights in the vines, and they moved. There was
loads of like wired lights within that, but you couldn't see them because it was lit.
It was all hidden.
Yeah,
and there was also something hidden within the thing. I can't remember what it was. It was some sort of like, was it a sword or something that she used to fight something?
Yeah,
it was. I remember it
was a staff.
One of the characters getting
a
prop. On one side it was a staff, and the other side it was ladders to get up.
Exactly. But you couldn't even see it because you couldn't.
No,
it'd been done blended so well that you didn't even know it was there.
Yeah, and that's the great thing about utilising the technical thing with the set.
Yeah,
so that everything had its purpose and its.
And then what we also didn't realise at the end, towards the end anyway, those trees at the side of stage were actually on pistons, and they all just moved in and became breathing set, and they were all lit, and it was so perfectly sort of timed, so that you were like, oh my god, that's moving as well now. And
the moon at the back.
Yes,
the backdrop of that was that was good.
It really, and it was the right perspective. It was the right size. And everything was
behind the vines, so it made it look like you could see strange shadows through them onto the moon, or the other way around, whichever way you want.
And this production shows you how lighting, sound, directors, choreographers, and everybody and set designers all got involved to create this production and worked together and made it a strong piece. You only needed one of those people not to be involved, or costume to go a different direction, or set designers to go a different direction, or have their own ideas, that then it would have lost everything that this created. And I think that's when you watch something like this and realise that nobody got in anybody's way. They were all had a common goal and a common aim. And from a director's perspective, that must have been such a really good creative process to create what they did from that.
And also for the technical aspects of the puppetry.
Yes.
Just seeing how they used those within the lights, and the fact that when one of the puppets touched the other, to portray that they're going on a journey, that they lit up.
Yeah, exactly.
And have those kind of moments.
To create emotion in puppets is not easy either.
No, but also to show the light in the dark.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
As well, that's basically in a lot of the scenes anyway.
Yeah.
But to use it within the puppets as well.
Yeah, exactly.
And the monsters.
Yeah.
That was quite interesting.
Well, it blurs the line between people doing it and them being real puppet, the feeling like they're almost real life. And I think that's what worked really well. You felt for the puppets as well, because you felt like they were living and breathing, rather than them just being, it's just a puppet on stage. You felt like they were part of that.
I think it also represented the fact that they transcended. They transcended the human form.
Yes.
Into another world.
Exactly.
For going on their journey. Now, whether that's to depict them passing on, or other people passing on, or just going through this kind of passing on place where other people are.
Yes, and also they were. What was really nice was they were actually the puppeteers. The actual actors became the puppeteers with the ensemble cast, and it was really nice to see that, because even though you couldn't really see them facially, you knew they were there, and it was like really, felt connected to the puppets.
Exactly, and this is more direction and movement rather than technical thing. But I'm just going to whack it here now. Anyway, but the fact that the actors were moved about by the ensemble,
yes, definitely,
as they were, like you say, they were moving them as puppets, like when they were trying to get out the window and stuff like that and fall.
It was very relevant to every part of the production rather than just the puppet scene. They were very much the enablers through the ensemble were the enablers for the production to happen as well.
Yeah. To show the story.
Yeah.
Good soundtrack as well. Good
Definitely
music.
Good soundtrack.
And it was loud when it needed to be loud, and it kept you on your toes.
Yes.
Thoroughly throughout.
Yeah, and it was a real driver in the production.
Yeah.
As in, because and as you say, it was the volume levels worked when they needed to, sound effects worked when they needed to. I don't think there wasn't a lot of sound effects apart from the odd car noise or things like that got in the way.
I think there were sound effects that was used extremely well, and they thought carefully about those sound effects.
Yeah.
They didn't chuck loads of things in that they got muddled, but then they didn't shy away from using stuff that was creative, like I said about the heat fan.
Exactly.
As well.
And there was also
when they were in the bath, turn the taps on to fill up.
And there was no water, it's just, And I think the other thing was there was certain sound swells where it might have been in the soundtrack, but there was there were certain bits where they revisited, say, the main sort of musical pieces, but they just used the swell or the rumble or the bass tones just to create that unnerving noise in the background that then blurs the lines, where you haven't just got an empty, cold space. It felt like there was always something happening.
And now it's time for
Rewind, Rewatch.
Rewind, Rewatch now, Richard.
That's an easy one.
It's going to be the same one as me as well, isn't it?
All of it. All of it.
Okay. Yeah.
The whole lot.
I'll definitely see it again, but for my Rewind, Rewatch, if it's just a little segment, it will just be the bit with the doors, but I will say no.
Yeah, no, I'll agree
that.
with that. I will
Yeah,
agree with that,
yeah.
but we're not saying any more. But yeah,
No,
I'd watch it all again.
Definitely.
But yeah, the doors definitely agree with you, Stephen.
Moving on to our final segment, as we say, call this a show? Now, summary.
Just a phenomenal piece of stagecraft, stage work,
Absolutely.
and acting.
This was a
performance.
masterpiece.
Just
everything.
It's one that will sit with me for a long time, and I will not forget this performance. And I wish I'd have seen it sooner, quite honestly. You know, I sort of ummed and ahed a few years ago when it was first on its iterations, and I'm so glad I've seen it now, and just phenomenal. Just great.
This piece just played with all of my senses. Everything was just excited by it.
Yeah.
It was like being in a sort of euphoric atmosphere in the stage.
Yes.
You know.
And that's not easy to create.
No, it was just, everything was just engaging, and it was exciting, it was fresh, it was new, or at least fresh and new to me.
It was to me, yeah.
Everything
totally.
about all the stagecraft was on point, and it's like you go into a restaurant and they just give you a little portion. You think, okay, I'll just have that. It's really, really nice. And then it's followed by something else and something else. And you're thinking, God, the talent this chef has.
Yeah, exactly.
Is there any more to your...
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, yes, we've got this and I've got this and I've got this. And
Yeah,
got this.
exactly.
Everything just kept putting onto the table. All these loads of little plates of ideas and just creative bits and bobs, whether it's sound, technical, and like the puppets and stuff. Everything was just piled into this, and it wasn't like a sloppy mess.
No, it wasn't at all.
Because we've seen sloppy messes.
Oh, we have, yes.
Where they chuck everything on the stage and it just becomes crap. This is where you know exactly when to execute a certain element, a certain style, and this was just done beautifully. It's definitely, this is hands down definitely on my top tier, if not the top one.
Wow.
Because I felt, in terms of like the stage and everything,
I get that. Yeah,
this is up there with Animal Farm.
Yeah,
the one we saw at the very beginning of the podcast.
Yeah.
Animal Farm was just like that.
Yeah.
And that was like puppets and stuff with direction and stuff. That was brilliant.
Yeah.
And Plough Your Bone into the Body of the Dead.
Drive Your Plough.
Oh, yeah, that was a different film. No, Drive Your Plough Over the Bones of the Dead.
Yeah.
That was thrilling and gripping and just cleverly done, that one.
Totally.
Yeah. I preferred the storyline of that one over this.
Yeah.
But the stage production of this was just everything.
Something else.
It was a lot more.
Yes.
Yeah. And I appreciate all those three are just top notch.
Yeah.
They're in like another realm to the brilliantness of Abigail's Party, Pride and Prejudice.
Yeah, totally. This is the experimental theatre at its finest, really.
Exactly. And Book of Mormon, I'll say.
Yeah.
Yeah. Scores then, please, Richard, for The Ocean at the End of the Lane. On a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being a thrilling theatrical treat for all the senses, and 1 being a puddle at the end of the lane. What's it going to be?
It can only be a 10 out of 10 plus.
It's getting there, isn't it?
Yeah, 10 out of 10.
And it's 10 out of 10 plus for me as well. This was fantastic.
Stunning.
So, what sound effect will you be choosing from the following? A complete train wreck? Tumbleweed? An audible shrug of the shoulders? A slow clap? A pleasant applause? Or a standing ovation? What will it be?
It's a standing ovation with lots of woot, woot, woot. Good luck, you, Stephen.
And it's a standing ovation from me as well. Thank you very gladly. So there we are. That's our discussion of The Ocean at the End of the Lane. We hope you found it insightful.
if not entertaining,
Stay tuned as we bring you more of our thoughts
and opinions.
on many theatrical delights in future episodes.
If you'd like to get in touch, email us at upstagedownsstagepod@gmail.com. You can always join in the chat to share with us your views of a production.
Also, make sure to follow, share, like and subscribe to all our channels so you get every episode the second it's released. And we hope you join us again for another instalment of Upstage Downstage. Well, the website.
Yeah, what? That bit there.
Yeah,
Which bit at the bottom? Returning to his childhood.
that's what it's about. So, Richard, what's it all about?
Yeah, well, I'm not on the website, am I?
Well, you should have been.
Well, I'm not. You didn't send me the link.
Should have been off Grindr.
I'm not on Grindr. Returning to his childhood home, a man finds himself standing beside the pond of. Returning to his childhood home, a man finds himself standing beside the pond of the old Sussex farmhouse. Of the old Sussex farmhouse where he used to play. He's transported to his 12th birthday when his remarkable friend Letty claimed. Returning to his childhood home, a man finds himself standing beside a pond of the old Sussex farmhouse. Oh, these guys, I'm breaking it where I don't need to. Returning to his childhood home, a man finds himself standing beside the pond of the old Sussex farmhouse where he used to play that threatened the.
Are you ready?
Yeah, I need to just see one of the scripty bits because if I don't.
If not entertaining, and options, because I say the rest.
And what? And options.
And opinions.
And options. Yeah, okay. An unforgettable piece of stage. No. Unforgettable stagecraft. No. Hold on.
Scores, are we still recording?
Yeah.
Okay. Scores then, please, Richard, for Ocean at the. Is it Oceans?
The ocean. I think it's the ocean.
From down there. Are you listening?
Yeah, I'm listening.
Without telling any more details. Any more?
Yeah. But being. Yeah.
What? Are you looking at me like that for?
I'm not. Yeah. But being. Yeah. Are we doing the? So there we are. That's our discussion
I
of.
forgot that bit. Yeah, well, we should do, shouldn't we?
Oh, we're doing it. Yeah.
So with all that finally said,
Dynamicism.
let's set the scene.